What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Love Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Wilson, and this is the podcast where we have unscripted conversations with millennials about relationships and dating. So I am super excited to be back. I know it's been a minute, but it was well worth it. I hope you all are doing fine. Hopefully you were excited to see this episode come across your phone and your notifications. I know a lot of you have been asking, you're like, Joseph, where are the podcast episodes? Where are the conversations? And I had to put them on hold, but for a good reason. So as many of you know, I have been working on my book that is finally finished. The Flip the Script Relationship Preparation Journal is complete. You will be hearing more information about it through my social media and through the newsletter. You will find great tools, strategies, and exercises to be able to help get you on track to finding love. This was something that I really poured a lot of time and a lot of myself into to create, because I'm all about creating resources. I believe that the gap between where we are and where we want to be, especially when we talk about love, is in the knowledge, is in the information. So I am in the process of starting to form and develop resources that you all can benefit from, that I've gained from my clinical experience as well, just life experience as well. So be on the lookout for that book. March 19th is when you'll be able to purchase it and get your own copy. So be on the lookout for that. Also, the Flip the Script Relationship Wellness Community is on its way back as well. So I've been really busy. I have a community that is going to be about sharing different tools and strategies, having conversation with myself as well as many of my colleagues who are also relationship and mental health professionals, to be able to give you practical tools and strategies for starting and maintaining your relationship. So I've been busy, but I hope you find that these resources and that this community will be something that you could take advantage of as something that you can enjoy. But guess what? I am here to have conversations. That is what we have built this platform off of, having dialogue about relationships and love. I don't know about you, but I like talking about love and relationships in a healthy way, not in one that is designed to bring strife and division, but one that's about bringing connection and community. Like, I believe people really do want love, but the question is, how do we do it? How do we make life work with another person? I think that's what we're all trying to figure out. I don't care if you've been in a relationship 1 year or you've been married 20, there's still things that you have to learn and grow through. And this podcast is going to be that podcast that helps you get those practical tools and strategies by hearing other people's experience, as well as hearing professional suggestions and recommendations on how to make this thing work. But I have another amazing, great guest who's going to be joining us today. Let me go ahead and get them in here.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Hey,
go
Joseph.
ahead. Yes, and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hello, community. Hello, my name is Cassandra, and I go by Ask Miss Cassandra on Instagram and TikTok. I am a life and relationship coach and a men's advocate. So I support men around their experience when it comes to love and allow for them to have a space, not that I personally allow, but I create a space for them to have and express their unique experiences, and being able to take their unique experiences and learn new tools so that they can create the type of experiences that they actually want. So in other words, gentlemen are crying out for the fact that they don't feel loved, heard, understood, catered to. They feel like so much has been lost along the years in terms of just the modern woman and not being, not feeling like a man, not feeling appreciated. And so while I hear that and I do, provide a platform for those issues to be spoken about, I also talk about what they can do to improve it, choosing wisely, caring for themselves, and things of that nature. And I love it.
Oh, that's great. That's interesting. A men's advocate. So what made you want to go in that direction in the first place? And also, how are you received? Because as you know now, it's like the gender wars going on, and anyone who supports the other gender is viewed negatively. So how have you been received, and what made you want to go that route in the first place?
Sure. So what made me go this route? This is more of like a calling as opposed to just interest. I'm not interested. I'm committed. And I'm committed because there was a call on my life from God. And I know it was a call because it just kept ringing and I had to pick up. And I was just like, yes, God, how can I be your servant? How can I support? And that came by way of me initially studying feminine and masculine energy for my own personal self. Like I personally, as a woman, wanted to understand how to be more feminine. And in the midst of it, God kept showing me different things about men, things that I'd never learned from my parents. The school didn't teach me, no textbook taught me, nothing explained it. It was really just God's spirit showing me and helping me to feel the sensation that men feel when they're brokenhearted. And it is a very different feeling than how I feel as a woman brokenhearted. They're two very distinct feelings and senses. It's really incredible, humbling. It moves me, it compels me to be a men's advocate. I don't think that I could go so hard without that, right? I don't think that I could go as hard without having that understanding of like a man's bleeding heart when it comes to love and those emotional setbacks. Also how I'm received for the most part. I think when men hear another woman, a special woman that looks like them, speak on their behalf, and understand that I'm not necessarily saying that men are all good and women are bad. It's more of like literally explaining how men process, how men think, how men break down, right? And that we need to start letting men be men and women be okay with that. We really got to stop wanting men we have to stop putting feminine energy on such a pedestal that when a man is acting like a man, we are villainizing him, right? We need to stop that. And I think when men hear that and they hear how normal their behaviors are from a woman's perspective, they feel at home. They feel relaxed. They feel like, oh my God, thank God somebody gets it. Most women, majority of women appreciate my intake because I'm not in the business of humbling anybody, right? I think where some people go wrong in terms of the gender wars is that they're taking the angle that they have to humble their same gender or the opposite gender. I'm not here to humble women, and I'm not here to humble a man either. I'm here to just to show what is the reality of life, and that we are here to be different so that we can come together and click together and become unified in one and whole, and that there are some allowances around that, and that we should have, and we should normalize certain behaviors as opposed to making them out to be bad. So I think for the most part, I'm well received. Now, sometimes women, if I have sessions with a couple, a lot of times the wife is upset with me, but a lot of times those same wives, they're the ones that come back for round 3, 4, 5, 6. You know what I'm saying? So because they recognize that when they implement some of the things that I recommend that they do, they finally can see the difference. Because when they'll try on what I recommend reluctantly, and they are like, oh my God, I have a different husband. I don't even know who he is. And then she goes back to her regular mode, and then she re-inherits the husband that she had that she doesn't want anymore. So then she'll come back and say, okay, you got to teach me how to do this because I want the husband that I get when I'm doing what you're recommending.
Right. And I think that if we are really going to heal as a community, especially this gender war idea, is going to take men and women speaking on behalf of men and women to support each other on the journey of understanding each other. And then even with that, making the adjustments or even accepting that men are a certain way, women are a certain way. Yeah. And you get to pick which man or which woman you deal with and their quirks and their habits and their personality traits. Like you get to pick that. So I think it's going to take that. It's going to take a collective effort, not just us standing on one side and me as a man only talking to men. No, because there's some information that you all need as women that you're not going to get just from talking amongst each other.
Correct. 100%.
Right. So we got to have more women who are men's advocate. We need to have men who are women's advocate 100%. In a healthy way that promotes growth, communication, and understanding. So thank you for sharing that with us. So I like to ask this season, I'm asking this question because we're in a political year. We're about to try to pick a president again. And so I have a question for you. So usually in the political world, they do what's called a State of the Union address, where they look over the landscape and make statements, observations, and then also may tell where they want us to go as a country. So, from your perspective, what do you see the romantic relationship landscape being? And then, two, where would you like to see it go this year?
Absolutely. So the state of address for the state of affairs when it comes to love and life and relationships amongst I will speak specifically to opposite gender relationships because that's what I do focus on, is that there is a remarkable level of selfishness, pettiness, and cattiness. There is a deep-seated fear of being taken advantage of and wanting to provide the least amount of effort with the maximum benefit. How little can I do and still receive the maximum that I could possibly can because I know somebody else was able to, and so I do as well. I know that his or her ex got so much out of them, and I'm not going to give that much or any because I just want to get what that ex got because then I'm being played if I don't receive it, right? And with that fear, there comes a lot of scarcity and a lot of what I'm not gonna do, what I refuse to do, and all of that is selfishness because people are essentially entering relationships asking questions like, "What do you bring to the table?" as opposed to, "No, what can I do for my country? What can I do for my wife? What can I do for my husband? What do I plan on doing?" And the real answer to that, to where I'd love for us to go to, is to recognize that you don't even know what you can actually provide. You don't even know what you can bring to the table because the one of the challenges is, and I have this as a reel, is that some people think they are the prototype
Hmm.
of a wife or a husband, and they feel like they're just this sacred relic of a person that should be worshipped and appreciated because, well, I don't put my hands on her and I pay the bills and so therefore I should. Or she's thinking, well, I'm a boss babe and I make so much money and I made him, and I gave him 3 babies and so therefore I ought to receive. And inside of that, while you thought that you came into the relationship to birth these babies and you thought you came into the relationship to 100% pay the bills, you forgot to ask what makes your partner feel alive. You forgot to discern and really peer through what matters to them. How do they feel love deep in their bones? And are you willing or are you reluctant? Are you yielding and willing to flow, or are you resistant and problematic? Because there's a lot of resistance with what people are saying that they want. Well, I'm not going to do that. So then what are you doing here? Well, sometimes I don't want to have sex. So why are you in a monogamous relationship? Make it make sense. I would like for us to recognize that saying yes to a relationship requires you to really be curious and say yes to the way that your partner desires to be loved and not the fact that you don't want to be lonely anymore.
Say that last one one more time.
Yeah, you got to say yes to your partner and how they want to be loved, and not you're not saying yes to I no longer want to be lonely anymore. You're not saying yes to companionship and yes to another warm body in my bed. You are saying yes, I'm with you. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to be your full yes divine partner, right? And sometimes a yes looks like a no, right? So we have a yes around, well, we want to build our legacy, then that might look like a no to a couple of trips.
Mm.
Right? So it's just that mature discernment around what are we doing as a unit? What is the culture that we're building in this relationship?
Man, I love that. And I believe that if we went in that direction and stopped being so defensive in
Game
love,
changer.
like it changes some things. And here's the thing, y'all. And I guess you have to be on the healing journey or have went through one to experience this, but you're not as afraid going into the dating or building a relationship or going deeper with somebody when you are not so defensive, when I'm not always thinking about the worst that can happen and can intentionally plan for the best to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that. We
Yeah.
can plan and be intentional about the best happening. That may come in the form of no. No, I cannot do certain things. No, I have to limit how I interact or engage with certain people at this point in the relationship. Like, you can have that if
Yeah.
we're not so defensive. So thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing that. I really believe that that's going to be something that we can actively start doing.
Yes.
Not being, go ahead.
And the crazy thing is that while men think that women are in an argument with men, women are in a perpetual argument with themselves and other women on a mental, unspoken level. So anytime a woman comes on the gram or on social media to talk about what her man does for her in ways that she doesn't have to do anything but show up, it creates an internal argument that the other women are having with themselves that this man doesn't even know he's in a battle with. So what men think that women are arguing with them about being able to provide 100%, she's not arguing with him. She's arguing with the mean voice in her head because she heard what some other woman was able to get from a man that she's not able to. So rather than her being able to scout out and become the kind of woman that could attract a man like that, she would rather in her present current reality try to manipulate the current man that she is to try to convince him that he needs to be able to provide 100%. But the way that it's expressed, it gives the appearance that she's arguing with a man. She is not. She is in competition with other women as it relates to feeling a woman of value. So we're having a value class system level argument. It is beyond gender. It is about worth. It is about worth and shame. That's what the real argument is. It just occurs. It appears to be. It's kind of like bait and switch, right? You know, when you get clickbaited, it's clickbait. Men think that we're not arguing with y'all. Women are not. We are arguing with our own inner dialogue and voices saying that you're not good enough unless you're able to have a man who can provide for you. Instead of acknowledging that that's not available, you'd rather project his lack of worth by way of his inability to sustain himself without a partner, no less than being able to sustain an entire family with his own solid income or 7 streams, right? So the projection is far easier to do because that is the tendency of the feminine. You know what I mean? Like that's the darker side. Like there's light sides and dark sides to each energy. And that's how it comes across. And so, of course, naturally, men are defending themselves around that because of the way that is being projected, which is a natural response. You know what I mean? But there's another divine way of responding to that. It's a whole different conversation to where men can kind of like pull the reins in on that. But again, these are things that are lost art. There's a lost art to being the masculine, and there's a lost art to being the feminine. It's lost. So it's going to be hard to pull this all in. So one of the best things to do is to surrender. Both genders need to surrender to the way each gender operates.
Oh, and see, there's an example. You helped a man out there who got a chance to see behind the curtain that it's not an argument with me, it's argument with other unspoken and unpresent people.
Correct.
So that's good, which is why we need to have these conversations with each other so that you could be like, hey, bro, like she's not even upset at you. It's something else. Or I could be like, hey, sis, he's not even upset about that. It's more about this. We got to have these conversations. So thank you for giving us some of that insight. And this is going to be a good segue into the topic that I have for us for today. And we're going to start off this way. So I don't know about y'all, but in my growing up over the summer when I was younger, the neighborhood that I lived in did not have the best basketball courts. It didn't have the best park. So in order to go to the park and play with people who were either older or better than the people in my neighborhood, we used to have to travel. We used to call these road games. And being younger, we did not always like to walk everywhere. So we decided to invest in a bike. But the thing is, not everyone in our neighborhood had a bike. So in order to get the whole crew from our neighborhood to the park where everybody was at, we would have to double up on a bike where someone would get on the back spoke wheels, someone would pedal, and we would take off on that journey. Now, how this works is at any given time, someone will be pedaling, which will be difficult because there's someone on the back of the bike, and then somebody will be riding. Now, this is a good trade-off because we will get there quicker if I'm pedaling and someone's riding versus both of us walking them couple miles to the park.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge comes where, excuse me, let me revert back a little bit. So we had this unspoken rule that if I rode the bike there, then I get to ride on the back coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the rule. One person pedals hard going, one person pedals hard coming back. Now, this system broke down when someone would take the ride there, but then wouldn't want to pedal back. They wouldn't want to pedal back. It was not reciprocal. One person was getting all the benefit without much of the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to relationships, I want to have a conversation, at least from a man's perspective, about this idea of reciprocity. The way society is set up, many men will hear that, okay, if someone else doesn't reciprocate, then I, as the man, still have to get out here and do it.
Right.
Men have been told that you have to do in order to be a man. And if you don't like how you are being treated, then you are complaining. You're being sassy. You're being zesty. Like, they give you all these titles when all you wanted was a little reciprocity. You want to receive the same amount of energy and effort that is being put forth. So here's my first question to you, and we're just going to talk baseline before we start dissecting this a little bit. So how does reciprocity contribute to building a strong foundation in romantic relationships? Why is that even important on the front end?
Yeah, the thing is that we're supposed to first be able to fill our cup, but we're also supposed to be able to fill a part of our partner's cup as well. That is the purpose of co-creating, coming together. That's how we build a culture. That's how we build systems. That's how we build legacy. And when one person is seemingly doing all of the grunt work, right, and doing it suffering in silence, that person, their well runs dry, right? Their well runs very dry. And so what ends up happening is they'll look for external ways to fill it, right? Whether it's another person romantically, or how they check out, but they no longer become available to the relationship because it no longer makes any sense, right? This relationship no longer becomes an oasis of where I can get drenched and filled and have sustenance. It becomes like an abandoned garden. It's just nothing but weeds and chaos, and I can't really reach any fruit, right? All the low-hanging fruit has fallen to the ground. It's rotting. Like, it doesn't make any sense to be here. So people will pick up and leave and instead go to somebody else's garden or somewhere else where it's a bit fuller to go and receive sustenance, right? And so that's why it's important, that in that analogy, to be specific, that's why it's important to be able to know about a partner's love language and apology language, their dreams, their goals, their fantasies, right? Think about any area, any component that is part of our human nature. We should be able to touch at least a part of it, right? It may not be perfect, but something. And oftentimes what happens is that someone will feel like they're doing most of the giving and their cup is not being filled. And so they'll begin to abandon that relationship.
I low-key think that this whole idea, or excuse me, a rigid, unwavering view of gender roles is to blame for many men not feeling like reciprocity is possible. Because think about what gender roles do. It assigns tasks to certain people. And in a relationship, in a family, in a business, in an organization, people have to do their role and responsibility in order for the whole to be able to function properly. Right. But there are times where my role may not always fit me, or I may not always be able to live up to it, or I may need additional love, care, support, understanding, information, whatever it is. I think gender roles has put people in boxes that it can be very hard to get out of. What are your thoughts on how gender roles may impact the way men are willing to speak up for their own needs?
Yeah, I think that there is a biological reason for this, right? Just the way in which men communicate. It's one of the reasons why I don't think that talk therapy is the primary mode for men healing. I think men need to be physical. And I think that women do not know how to read a man. So he might be communicating and it's just we're unawares because we're relying on words. And so I think a lot of it is misunderstanding. Also, the way in which men they process reciprocity and they process how things ought to be from a very linear standpoint. And what I mean by that is if if the wife doesn't do the laundry on time, like two to three times in a week, right? Like in a month, right? Like every other week, she doesn't do laundry on time. The husband will likely give grace. Oh, it's cool. I know you're tired. It's okay whenever you can get to it, right? Like if that's her assigned role. But if he forgets to throw out the trash, she blows up. And so in his mind, he's thinking, why can't she just give me the same grace that I give her? He won't verbalize it, but he'll process and internally consider it and think about it. And one of the benefits of the masculine and being more likely to have a reign on his emotions is that he can model stability by communicating that to his woman, not just showing it physically, but also expressing it. I just want to bring it to your attention, babe, that you're not able to do the laundry, and I'm cool with that because I get that you're tired. But I would appreciate that same grace when I forget to take out the trash. Is that something that you think you can do? Because it has to end in a question. Because you need to. That's how you create reciprocity, right? You throw it back. Is that something you think you can do? And if she rebuttals, and then you bring it up again, because you have to model like behave. Like there's a natural resistance to change in any human behavior. Babies, children, young adults and seniors, right? We all will resist change, but we can assimilate. So there needs to be some persistence there, right? We need to put a little bit of pressure. And these are the things that get in the way of men experiencing reciprocity because of how they mentally process on a level of, does this make sense? So when it doesn't make sense for him, instead of him speaking up, he'll just retreat. He'll continue to shrink. And in the process of him shrinking back and having less of his DNA in the relationship, he begins to feel less and less like this relationship belongs to him at all. Because his DNA ain't in it. And she is completely unaware that this is taking place, because while he's shrinking, he's still not able to fully touch upon and handle her needs. He thinks he is. He believes he is, because he interprets his shrinking as her growth, as her taking up room. But the truth of the matter is, there isn't really a dialogue and healthy communication happening back and forth to ensure that her needs are actually being met. He's just literally looking at it and from a linear standpoint of, I'm gonna do what you do, or you should be able to do what you're asking of me to do. Why do I need to tell you what to do? You should already know it. That's how a man thinks, and women don't know that.
I wish people could sit in on like the couple sessions that I've done, or even when you sit with couples, because this is what happens. Like these are the conversations,
Right?
and it's so here's why human behavior is so beautiful. It's very predictable.
Oh my God, so predictable.
What you were explaining, I have literally seen that hundreds of times with couples walking.
Oh, yeah.
The retreat part. Now here we go. When the man retreats, now the woman perceives this as emotional disconnect. Mm-hmm. So here's the question. I want you to talk to the ladies now. Mm-hmm. So in what ways does reciprocity enhance the emotional connection between partners?
Yes. So the way that that's a loaded question. Because sometimes in order for reciprocity to take place, the person who is looking to receive needs to know what that looks like for them. And most men have not been afforded the opportunity to even imagine what it could look like, let alone, even if he could imagine it, actually put words to it, to say it, to have the gusto to say it out loud. And with that missing link, it would require a woman to triple her energies around analyzing and observing her man's behavior. And a lot of men don't even like that, because when you're used to not being seen, it can be uncomfortable to be seen. So now it can look like she's nagging. It can look like she's too much. She's like she's too alert. She's too hyper focused, and that could be uncomfortable. So it creates a lot of tension. So the ways in which reciprocity can help is by becoming as non-threatening as possible as a wife or as the woman in his life, as possible as you can. And that comes through time. That comes through commitment around giving a damn, right? Like truly actually caring about this person's soul and making it easy for him to express himself. I did like one of those videos where the split screen and you like could do like a commentary. So this woman, she asks her man, is there any way that I could bless you today? He's like, no, I'm good. And she's like, you sure? And he's like, no, I'm good. And she's like, are you sure? And he's like, no, I'm good. And she's like, are you sure? Like her tone changes. And he was like, we could pick up the kids. She's like, okay, I could do that. And she was like, anything else? And he was like, well, I'm hungry. She was like, you hungry? What do you want to eat? He was like, I don't care. And she was like, okay, I'll make you something to eat. And I love the way that was played out because she knew when to apply pressure and she knew when to let it go. So on the front end of asking, can I serve you in some type of capacity? The reason why he didn't have anything to say is not because he had no need. It is because a lot of women have this tendency of doing a surprise attack on these weird ass questions. Baby, what do you see us in the next 5 years? On a road trip. And he's like, I don't have any plans for us in the next 5 years. It's not necessarily true. He does have thoughts and plans for the next 5 years. It's just that you caught him off guard. So most of the times a man is going to say, I don't know, because he literally means I don't know in that very present moment, because masculine energy is a very present energy. He's not always thinking like so far ahead in that given moment just because you're thinking about it. So she gave him a chance to process by saying, are you sure? Are you sure? And then she got a little further. Are you sure there isn't anything I could do? And finally says, you could pick up the kids. She didn't rebuttal. She didn't say, well, I can't do that. I could do anything but, oh, I thought that you was going to say, make you a sandwich. She didn't try to control it. She allowed it. She yielded to his flow, which is to get the kids. And she still wasn't satisfied with being able to serve him. She wanted to do more, which is natural for the feminine. That's something that men don't get about women, is that when a woman is in love, she absolutely wants to serve. But if you keep telling her there's nothing that she can do, she too will shrink. She too will pull back. So in this case, she recognizes, I still have more capacity for my man in the way that I want to show up for him. Is there anything else? Well, he says, I'm hungry. Okay, what would you like to eat? I don't care. He actually means he don't care. And some women get bothered by that because of the indecisiveness that is feminine, that she wants a concrete like target to hit. But when he said, I don't care, he really meant that. And that's something that women need to respect. Sometimes he really just don't care. He's like, he go whatever you just, baby, because you made it. I trust you. I just want my belly full, right? And so she went ahead, and in that case, she didn't rebuttal and say, are you sure you don't know what you want to eat? She didn't say, can I make you a burger? Can I make you this? She didn't give no rundown. She made it easy and said, okay, I will also figure out, not only am I going to feed you, I'm also going to figure out what I'm finna feed you. So she served him in 3 ways: getting the kids, making him something to eat, and giving him less to think about. And that's an example of what it looks like when you're curious enough and present enough to your partner's flow, and when to apply pressure and when to ease up.
So here's the thing. I hear you. That sounds nice and lovely, but here would be the retort that I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
He a grown man. Why would I need to ask a whole adult a question 3 or 4 times? If you need something, you need to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
What would your response be to someone who has that mentality of, my partner's a grown person, I shouldn't have to do this much emotional lifting for you to say what it is that you need?
Well, my response to that would be, who taught you anything about men in the first place?
Oh, sorry, did I say that? Go ahead.
Who told you that? Who told you that that's how a grown man acts? Who told you that? Who told you that you could ask a man a random question at any given Sunday, any time of the day, while he's busy thinking about something else, that you could just ask him something he should? Who told you that? I would offer her to suspend her right to think that she knows anything about men. Believe it or not, men are not as quote unquote simple as society says it. It's not quite in that way. There are complexities to men. Men are simple in that they don't ruminate. Men are simple in that they can get over something. But men are not just these simple dogs that just want sex and food. Are we allowed to curse on this?
Go ahead.
That's nigga shit. That's nigga shit. That ain't got nothing to do with no man. That's niggerdom. right? And there's a lot of people that just do weird shit that has nothing to do with the gender, right? That's like classism and things of that nature. You understand? Like, there are different reasons why people do what they do, right? Like, all women are not bitches, all men are not niggas, right? But people can function at different vibrational levels. And we expect somebody to act how we want them to act because it's convenient for us. That's codependency. I need you to be so decisive because your decisiveness makes me comfortable. Why? What is it about you that feels so uncomfortable with somebody's curiosities? How selfish can you be? So I would offer that she suspends the belief of what she thinks a man is supposed to be able to do and figure out the man that she's choosing to lay down with. Because if he's that bad, why are you with him? If he's that off, why are you staying? If he's that unreasonable, why you have his kid for the fourth time? What are you making decisions on? Clearly there's something about him that you like enough. So then go ahead and just go ahead and learn it. And I hate to sound so rough and tough when I get into my coach mode, but really sometimes people need a shake up. Who told you that? That's my response. Who told you that? Because I'm telling you right now, a lot of men, the male masculine energy, you will do a lot better by prompting him. Hey baby, I just feel like I'm so in love with you in this moment, and I'm feeling compelled to serve you. I'm curious about what I can take off of your plate. I'm gonna go take care of something, but I'll be back in about 10 minutes, and you can let me know if there's anything that I can do. Give him a second to process. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that's what I would say in terms of like a man being grown, and is the reality is that you don't know anything about what a grown man is, needs, and processes. We don't know because we haven't been taught.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have not been taught about the opposite gender or what being in relationship with them looks like, because it's different than having a sister, than
Yes.
having a girlfriend versus a wife. Like, it's different having a brother than a husband. Like, even friendship is different. Like, there are different ways that the opposite gender interacts, and we have to do a lot of unlearning. Especially, like, I hear people when they're dating, they expect every man or every woman to be the same, and they seem to be shocked and surprised that they can't use the same format for every person, that they have to make adjustments based on who's in front of them. Some people aren't as emotionally intelligent as others, so you may have to do a little more explaining and do a little more communicating than you may have to with others. So I think that's something, when we're talking about reciprocity, we have to do a lot of unlearning about the opposite gender so that we can be open to hearing how they need to be served. And here's something I want to talk on as we start to wrap up a little bit. This idea of reciprocity can get co-opted for tit for tat, task for tat. What's
Yes.
the difference in having a relationship that's reciprocal versus a relationship that is taking score of, I did this for you, so you need to do this for me?
Yep. That goes back to the areas in which where I support men around. And it's hard. Guys have a really hard time accepting this. And I like to give examples, as you guys can probably tell by now. But there was this little meme that was going around that said, women, what could you bring to the table that your husband could get that no man ever did get? And they put that in the group chat. So in other words, women are giving so much, right? Women are having babies, they're having businesses, they're having sex, they're giving money, they're doing all these, like, to the point where it's like, what exclusively could your husband ever get from you since you're giving so much in the dating phase, right? So that meaning, like, by the time she decides to get serious enough to settle down, she's used up. That's the implication behind it. And they sent this in the group chat. And so I asked the guys in there, what do you think? And one of the guys said, well, my wife will be the first one to get a shopping spree. And I'm telling you right now, I'm in my 30s. I got the first time I got a shopping spree, I think I was like 17 or 18 years old for my boyfriend. I've been getting shopping sprees. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't appreciate my husband giving me a shopping spree. I'm saying that would not be my first. That might be his first. And therein lies the problem. Because obviously, if he gives it, it may go over her head. It may be like, you know what I'm saying? It might just be like a beautiful gesture where he's carrying it with a lot of weight. Like, he's literally waiting for his wife to do a shopping spree experience. And his wife might just be like, okay, thank you. It may not give what it's supposed to be giving, right? And vice versa. Some women think that giving up the kitty is special. But if he had 100 of them, and he might be her second, he might be her third. And to him, it's just sex. It's not that it's not special, but it's not going to have as much gravity and weight to it like it is for her. Right? So, like, he's not really seeing it that way. So herein lies the thing. We need to recognize a couple of things. In the context of relationship, nobody is ever the same person in every relationship. Any woman can bring out a different version of a man, and different men can bring out a different version of a woman. That's one. Therefore, we need to suspend the belief that we know what to do. You don't know what to do. You don't have a clue until you get there. The second thing that you want to have the sobering experience around is accept the fact that you guys are co-creating this relationship together. I don't care if you're with a narcissist. I can bank that you're a people pleaser. The narcissist cannot exist without the people pleaser. So you play into it. So y'all are on the same wavelength in terms of selfishness, because he's taking from you, but you are so that you need to give so much. You need to be proven that you're usable, that you get used. And instead of you holding yourself accountable, you'd rather poke fingers at the narc. And it's like, no, baby, you're playing into it as well. So take some accountability, because the more you take accountability, the more your dating pool will shrink, because you'll recognize that if I hold myself accountable for the energy of the people that I entertain, if I'm no longer in a commitment to blaming other people for their thoughts, their behaviors, their actions toward me, and I take responsibility, you will let go of certain things that are not healthy for you a lot quicker, sooner, faster. But when people are committed to being in a relationship that doesn't serve them, so that they can prove that by that person being bad, that makes me better and that makes me really good, then they stay far longer than they're past their welcome. So you got to understand that you're co-creating in a relationship. So when you're co-creating and you guys are deciding what you guys are bringing out of each other, therein you should create openness and curiosity to explore what feels good to one another. And then when you identify those things that feel really good, you make a commitment to continuing to provide that. Right? Like, there's this beautiful couple on Instagram. It's a black couple. I believe that they're African. And the husband calls the wife Flower. Right? And she loves flowers. And she loves like this certain type of like gold like ring necklace. The ones that had like the rings all the way to the top. Mm-hmm. From the base of the neck to the top. And he picks at her outfits and everything. She shows up with so much excitement and glee and happiness. He brings out flowers all the time. He buys her different brooches and different things that look like a flower. He does the thing that she likes. And she responds, right, to his giving with absolute joy. Mm-hmm. But if he gave her a bunch of footballs and she just looked at it, is he going to look at her like she ungrateful? Because that's what happens in relationship. Sometimes you go on and give somebody something that you have an affinity for, that means something to you. And when you give it to them and they don't respond to it the way that you thought that they should respond, because you're projecting what you feel about it onto them and they don't meet you halfway, as opposed to taking the route of being curious around, well, what does tickle your fancy? You'd rather be offended. So in order to create this reciprocal bond, yeah, you get to have your DNA in it. Yeah, you get to say what means something to you, but you also need to see what it means to them. And not only what you want to give as a man, but what you want to receive as a man. So if kitty ain't it for you, if money ain't it for you, then what is it? And a lot of men have a hard time being able to talk about the tangibles. They want to say mysterious and tangible things like, well, her personality, and well, what is that? Say it plain, make it plain, because if you write the vision and make it plain, then somebody could pick it up and run with it. But if
I need you to tell a joke and it be funny. That's what I need.
Right. You feel me? Like, say what it is. Because if you're unable to say what it is, then you put the onus, and I'm speaking to men right now, gentlemen, when you are in a commitment to using umbrella terms like reciprocity, and if I did that as a man, I would be seen as zesty. If you're not clear in your communication around what you want to receive, forget what your mama, daddy, society says. What do you want for real? And you're unable to communicate that effectively to where it's clear, then it is you that is getting in the way of you experiencing love in the way that you can receive it, because you are committed to making her do the work and figuring it out, because you're too ashamed. You have some level of shame around being able to say what's meaningful for you. So it's making it too hard, right? So we're not in a relationship to make our partner's lives harder. The word of God says that God has called us all to peace, right? And if you catch a woman at a point when she's open, right? So like in those first few months when she's really like those first few months of dating, besides the difficult, uncomfortable conversations, those are opportunities to truly explore what's meaningful for you, because that's most likely when people are very open, right? Because they're really wanting to go ahead and give you the things that you want. That's an opportunity for you to speak up. I have a lot of male clients who are refusing. They're just like, well, I just want her to figure it out. No, it don't work like that. So those are the things that we have to work on in order for the relationships to work. Reciprocity is not a tit for tat experience. Reciprocity has to have your DNA in it. And so you need to be able to be self-reflective and curious about yourself enough. And that takes a level of self-love and confidence. Even if you say something like, baby, I think I would love to experience this. Or if you experience and it's not hitting, I really thought that was going to be different. It didn't hit the way I thought it was going to hit. It ain't got nothing to do with you. I just realized I don't like that, right? So like, for example, like, I really would love a white hot chocolate. And then your baby, baby, thank you for the white hot chocolate. I really appreciate it. That was my first time trying it. I hate it. I thought it was going to hit the way people were sipping on it. It seemed like it was going to be such a good experience. I prefer peppermint hot chocolate. That's just my thing. I don't never want another white hot chocolate again, right? And make it fun and light, as an example, right? We have to be able to be willing, because otherwise there's a lot of men who suffer in silence because she'll keep giving him the white hot chocolate and he'll keep drinking it begrudgingly. You understand? So he'll take the whack sex, right? He'll take, you know what I'm saying? He'll take the barely hot meal, right? Because he just thinks he got to be grateful. And then what happens? He explodes. I can't get no hot kitty. I can't get no hot food. This is ridiculous. Right?
Listen, the fellas got to act like they're ordering their chicken wing order. I know too many guys who are extremely specific about their chicken wing order and will speak up if the order is wrong. So don't go into no chicken wing spot and be like, yeah, just give me whatever. They give you some mustard, some ketchup, some teriyaki. When you really wanted lemon pepper wings, all flat, seasoned on my fries with the cherry Sprite. Like, that's what I need.
So that's my order right there.
Right. So
all
be
flats,
willing.
fried hard.
So be willing to speak up, because it's something that is part of your life. Like, it will enhance the quality. So I thank you for sharing that. You dropped some really good gems, and we're going to go ahead and transition into the last segment of the show, which is Flip the Script. And that's where our guest will provide a simple tool or strategy to deal with a challenge or a topic that we discussed in this episode. So you ready for your question?
I'm ready.
So a brother may be out there listening, and he may be like, you know what? I want to speak up for myself about trying to make reciprocity a necessity, but I'm a little fearful. What is one thing that man can do to start speaking up for himself rather than be afraid of what the response will be from a woman he may be trying to court or dating?
Totally. So very good question. So I'm going to break it down into two parts, because the first part just won't be enough. The first thing that I would want him to do is to write 10 things that he would like to receive. Don't make it connected to anything that she does. Just what do you want? And then open up the conversation and say, and this is where it helps. I think that a lot of times we start off conversations in a way where we're criticizing. I find that when you are willing to take responsibility for your part, you're not blaming yourself, you're just taking responsibility for your part, that it creates openness. You create a culture of accountability. So it could look like something like this: babe, I recognize I haven't been forthcoming in what pleases me as a man in a relationship. And that's not your fault. I haven't really been, talking to you about that. But I recognize there's been a few things that I would love to experience and receive with you. And I'd love to share that with you when you're ready. Whenever you're ready, I'm willing to share those things with you. And then y'all have a conversation. You could share those top 10 things with her and have a conversation around it. Because what you're doing here is you're admitting and you're confessing that you haven't been that kind of partner to express it, or express it in a way where there wasn't chaos, right? Not in the midst of an argument and, well, you don't never do nothing for me, right? We're taking a step back when it's light. So first, in all you're getting, get understanding, right? Write down your 10 things that are meaningful to you, things that you would love to receive on any given Sunday. and then express that to your partner in a calm, relaxed manner. And when you open it up, you're going to say, I recognize I dropped the ball on being able to let you in on my heart. And I'm looking to be vulnerable with you and share my heart with you. And I would love for you to bless me with these things, on any given day. When you're open to having this conversation, I love to have that with you. And one more thing, because I could already hear the guys. Well, what if she say that I don't do nothing for her? Because women have a nasty habit of flipping the script. Have a nasty habit. We really do, right? And in that, you would say, baby, I hear you. Can we stay on one topic at a time? In the future, we could do your list. I'm totally open to it, but can we do one thing at a time? That's a masculine way of reeling in the feminine, because feminine energy has a 360-degree way of viewing things. So just by you opening it up about you, she's thinking about herself, the kid, her mama, the apartment, the future. Like, the feminine mind can just go just like that, where masculine energy is very linear. It's just straightforward. And so he can help the feminine by saying, hey, we'll get to those other slices of the pie in this circular life experience, right? We'll get to the spiritual, we'll get to the financial, we'll get to your part. But right now, let's focus on this, and then we'll pivot. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. If the masculine can do that in conversation and, over and over and over again, she'll already know at some point, if I open up this conversation, I cannot redirect it. He gonna pull it in and say, let's focus on this topic at hand. So that would be my 3-part recommendation for a gentleman who's struggling to experience reciprocity.
There you have it. Yo, thank you so much for joining us this week.
You're so welcome. I had such a good time. What's up? It went by so fast.
Right. Please let everybody know where they can find you on the internet and social media.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok. Ask Miss Cassandra. That is AskMsCassandra.
All right. And I will put all of her information down in the show notes, but don't go trying to click it. I still am not covering anyone's deductible. If you wreck while you listening to the podcast in your car, trying to push buttons, trying to find out more information about the guest, wait till you get stopped to check out all of her information. Yes. And trust me, she has a lot of great things on her page, and you will not want to miss it. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us this week. Please head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher Podcast, comment, rate, subscribe. If you're in podcast land, go ahead and hit pause on this and go watch the full episode for this video on YouTube at LoveUnscripted HD. Once again, the Flip the Script Relationship Preparation Journal will be out on March 19th. And soon after that, we will have the Flip the Script Wellness Community coming. So we have a lot of things that we're going to be doing in 2024. And as I always say, we may not have all the answers, but we will have the conversation. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.